Welcome to 80 West Street in North Arlington. This is a new HECM asset. This is our first visit to the property, and we're going to go in and show you the way it looks. You can use this video as a reference point for the BPO, but also we're going to make some observations, and hopefully that's helpful for you. The first thing we notice when we drive up to a property is the neighborhood. I always like to take a look at the surrounding houses to see how the size compares to our property. We'll come back to that point in a second. But for now, let's look down the street. This is towards the major road of River Road. Right behind that farm stand at the end of the block is the Passaic River. Now, while we are on an incline, which you can see as you look back up the block, which creates a drainage issue, we're out of the flood zone. But it's not too far before this house that the flood zone stops. In comparing our property to the neighboring property, you can see that it's one of the smallest. It's a single level ranch. Now there are smaller homes on the block. This is probably a cape, but we can see that the neighbors have improved the house. Those are probably expanded capes. One of the general real estate principles is never to buy the biggest or the smallest house on a block. We probably have the smallest. That could have been one of the factors that affected the foreclosure. As foreclosures go, the exterior landscaping is acceptable. Once it gets trimmed up, it will look pretty good. What we see here is a nice big backyard, very useful. They had a volleyball net up, perfect for a barbecue, some patio space for a grill. This is definitely an asset. Now we're on an incline, and you can see that water is flowing down that street in the back. That's where you saw the runoff going into the sewer. But at this point, what I want to point out is that we have several neighbors. This is the first lot on the interior of West Street. And so unlike other neighbors, they probably have 4 or 5 neighbors touching them, which is somewhat exceptional. Usually you only have 3. One to the left, one to the right, and one, maybe 2 behind you. We're picking this property up vacant. That's the living room. Moving into the kitchen, we see that the closets, the cabinets are open. This is probably the way the former occupant left it. The trash out and sales clean have definitely not happened here yet. Major takeaway from the kitchen is that everything needs to get updated. The floor, the cabinetry, the cabinets are now behind the times in terms of what's typical for an updated home in the area. Remember, this is a ranch, so all the bedrooms will be on a single level. As it turns out, there's 3 bedrooms. Very typical for New Jersey, 1950s, 1960s, pink tile. They updated the vanity, but that is now out of date. All bedrooms seem to be adequate sized. My typical definition for a bedroom should be at least 10 by 11, and most of these are at or above that. Here we can see one of the asset preservation issues at work here. We have a leak. Unfortunately, there's no second level, so this is coming from the roof. It's definitely not a plumbing leak. And I've evaluated the outside, and it doesn't seem to be a gutter that's clogged. That's your crawl space, which is barely 12 by 12 to get access to that. So this is an unfinished basement, but the ceilings are quite high. I'm 6 foot even, and there's plenty of room for me to stand up. My first instinct is to size up the potential to finish this, and there's some great potential here. This is going to be a great room once the next owner finishes it. We do see that that leak into the bedroom is coming down into the basement. So far there's just a mild musty smell, but mold is on its way, no doubt. So all in all, I think this is an average to above average house in terms of sales value. While it is a smaller home on a block that's near a river, it does have a lot to go for in terms of being a very approachable, reachable, entry-level home. The layout is functional. And while there is a need for updating in the cabinets and the bathrooms, it's something that an owner that's interested in moving in and renovating in place could do.